Okay.
Yeah, it's not a raised button.
Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. Can you hear you? Try it.
Test 1 2 3. 1 2 3.
Test 1 2 3. I don't feel like I'm hearing you. I'm sure we're going back and forth.
You want me to keep talking until you get it, or how are we doing?
Just trying to see. Maybe we'll turn that up. Okay, let's try it again. Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3.
And test 1 2 3 4 5 6.
Okay, now I'm hearing you on both of these, or on the my stuff. I just hope I'm hearing you on his stuff. Okay. Let me say a quick prayer. All right, Father, we love you. Just thank you for this day. Thank you for loving us, and thank you for all you do in our lives. And Lord, I just thank you for Jeff. I thank you for his commitment to you and his commitment to do what your will is. And Father, we just pray that you'll be glorified in this conversation, and we'll say what you want us to say, and avoid those things that might be out of your will. We just want to do your will. And again, thank you for Jeff's dedication to you and his dedication to conservative causes. And I just pray your continued blessing on him. And Lord, get us out of the way. Let your Holy Spirit speak through us. Please, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. Okay. I have a little reading about that I do. We'll do a 12-minute segment, a 9-minute segment, and 3 7-minute segments.
Okay.
So you can help me keep up with them, okay?
I didn't bring my timer.
No, you don't need to worry about it. We got a little timer right there. See, record. We're recording for 3 minutes so far, but that's my stuff. That's not his stuff.
Gotcha.
Okay? I have a little monologue I'll read, and then we'll go into the questions, or we'll start talking, okay? And I just hope and pray. I'll try to make sure that this thing is indeed okay. Test 1 2 3 again. Test 1 2 3. Okay. Okay. And he said, okay. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia on WCGA 1100 AM, where we do speak the truth in love based on God's Word in Ephesians 4:15. In today's woke PC culture, there are many forces that want to stop free speech, especially for people of faith. Good men and women must be willing to stand up for their faith and be the salt and light to preserve our freedom. True freedom comes from faith in Jesus Christ. In John 8:32, God's Word says, "The truth will set you free." Today I welcome you, friends, and I want to welcome my great friend, Jeff Kilgore. Jeff, it's great to have you here.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. And you're an amazing leader in our community. You've been the leader in Republican politics and fighting for taxpayers. And I remember when I was a state senator, I ran as the candidate was the taxpayer's best friend. And I know we get very frustrated in our country, y'all. I mean, the way that the Biden administration is talking about raising tax rates, and we think about the local option sales tax, and yes, there's a lot of good things they do with that, but the fact of the matter is it's still a 1 cent tax, a 1% tax. And so a mother of 3 with making $40,000 a year, it could potentially cost her $400 a year. And that $400 is very important to that mom. And so I appreciate, Jeff, what you've done in our county, in our region, our state, and our nation, and fighting for us as taxpayers. So tell us what you do in helping fight for taxpayers.
Well, Clint, mostly I just do research and try to get the information disseminated to the taxpayers and to the general public, because most people are busy living their lives and are concerned, as you said, with a mother, concerned with children, getting food on the table. And so if I can facilitate the dissemination of the information, you can be assured that the only thing the government's going to tell you is what they want you to know. And there's oftentimes a tremendous amount of information that argues against more taxes and larger government, and I hope to be able to get that information to the people so they can make an informed vote.
Exactly. Well, tell us some more specifics of how you've done that.
Well, it started when I came back to Brunswick. I grew up here, and my mother was in the early stages of Alzheimer's, and I came back, and a postcard arrived at my mother's home, addressed to my father, who was deceased for like 3 years, inviting my father, J.C. Kilgore, to the Republican Party convention in March of, I think, 2004. And so I thought, I don't have anything to do on Saturday, and I wandered into the Republican convention and found a lot of people that I knew, and began to get involved in the local issues, local government, and specifically the Republican Party. And when the reality hit me that we have many millions of dollars in surplus in the county treasury, and the people who we were electing were labeled Republicans, but they weren't acting like Republicans. And so I began to fight against tax increases and to argue for more efficient government. And it culminated when I was here. SPLOST 2005, or SPLOST 5, had just passed, and that continued on to 2010, and in 2012 they tried to pass another SPLOST referendum, and that's when I began the crusade against more taxes, and specifically that SPLOST referendum in 2012.
That's very good. Now, one of the things that I know that in our county government, what's our budget here in this area?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. The total county budget probably approximates about $130 million, but the real nuts and bolts would be the operating fund. As an accountant, I can tell you that many accountants struggle with what's called fund accounting, and so I wouldn't recommend that just anybody go try to figure out the county finances, because there are 26 funds. They consolidate down to 5 major funds, and the most prominent is the operating fund, and that's where all the employee salaries, all the administrative expenses are contained. That budget for the operating fund is about $85 million a year.
Okay, and about how much is it growing per year?
It just depends on the given year. Obviously, it would vary, but to put it in perspective, when I first got involved back 12, 14 years ago, the annual operating fund budget was about $42 to $43 million. So it's doubled in the last 14 or 15 years.
Yes, sir. And that's one of the things that we all need to understand, is that no matter where you live, your taxes are still going up, and you've got to be involved no matter what part of the country you live in. It's very important that you understand what that local government's doing. And in our case, this state, I was glad to hear the Republicans decided at the state level to give property owners tax relief. And at least that's what this new bill says. They're going to give like $500 for a joint couple on their property taxes on every parcel of land they own, and then on a single person, $250. And, of course, that benefits real taxpayers.
You bet.
Sometimes real taxpayers are not the ones that get the benefit from the government, if you will. at least getting a refund of their own money.
Yep.
So it's really not a benefit. It's getting a refund of your own money. Instead of finding a way to spend that money, I was glad to see the Republicans say we're going to take about $1 billion of our growth and surplus. Not only are we going to continue the surplus funding because we have a balanced budget amendment in our state. And of course,
Right.
they find ways to get around it. And so I'm very impressed that they're at least willing to do that, because on a national level, we never see that.
Exactly.
They clearly spend money they don't have.
And money that isn't even printed yet.
Exactly. And so what's your philosophy on that? What's your feeling, and how do you help fight that?
Well, sadly, I don't know that there's any fight left to be had. I think the recent demise of the Silicon Valley Bank and what I believe the Democrats and the Socialists have been planning for many years is we're on that precipice. And I believe the movement's going to culminate in the nationalization of the banking system, and the rich and the fat cats and all the people that are involved in the banking industry are getting their money out now. As an example, in the Silicon Valley Bank, all the private equity groups, or what's often referred to as PEGs, and the venture capitalists and the people that were quote unquote in the know,
BlackRock and those type people.
Yep, took their money out 2 days before the bank crashed, and the management paid out bonuses, and they sold off stock, and Joe Biden goes on national television and says, I pledge and I promise that the taxpayers won't fund a nickel of the bailout of this bank. Well, that's a complete lie, because the fees are going to be passed through to the banking system, and the people who are going to fund that are you and me, and the rich people and the people that are, I think, behind this conspiracy to nationalize our banking system are all going to be more wealthy, and it's going to be more difficult for the common citizen, the people that work and pay taxes, and so I would fight it. I would do everything I could if I thought it was possible. But an example, Buddy Carter was here last Monday at the Republican Women's Club, and I like Buddy Carter generally, and don't think that I am saying anything derogatory toward him, other than he espoused the popular notion that Joe Biden put out there, that all the depositors and everyone was going to be made whole in Silicon Valley Bank. And as I'm sure you know, and most of the folks know, that the deposits are insured up to $250,000 in a bank. Well, these depositors had $8 million, $10 million in that Silicon Valley Bank, and the federal government made all of that good, far above and beyond the $250,000 limit. And Buddy Carter said that was a good thing. And I spoke and said, I don't think it's a good thing, because what in essence the federal government did at that point was guaranteed every dollar in this country that's on deposit. And there are like 296 banks nationally that are on the troubled or watch list for the Fed. And so I think we're just in a situation where I don't know that it can be corrected, and my fear is that it's going to get a whole lot worse.
That's right. And of course, we know we're heading toward a digital currency.
Right.
And they right now know any transaction over $10,000, and they want to make it $500. And there's all sorts of things they're doing that just don't bode well for the little guy, the middle class, and even wealthy people that are not in the know. And so it's a very scary thing, the prospects of that. Small businesses that have done very well and have grown to be big businesses. Because they're not in that New World Order group, if you will.
Exactly.
And it's no longer conspiracy theory. They are telling us what they believe. And when someone tells you what they believe, we need to believe them.
Indeed.
Exactly. So we're going to take another quick break, our first quick break. We'll be right back. This is Clint Day with Speak the Truth in Love. We'll be right back. Okay.
Well, I screwed up. I won't do that again. I set the timer
Yeah.
so that I would know when we were getting close. So
I've got to ask him, how do I verify if it's recording? Because I don't feel comfortable that I'm hearing us properly. Man, that was a great conversation, too. I hope we didn't.
Yes, sir.
Hey, buddy, sorry. How do I verify on your recorder that it's recording?
You did what now?
How do I verify on your recorder that it's actually working? Because I don't feel like I'm hearing Jeff. Okay?
Yeah, I didn't. I was. Somebody has done something to the back of that mixer, so that I don't know what's going on with it. But the bottom line is that I could not. I tried to make it work yesterday, and I couldn't make it work. So how do you verify that it's recording? You need to listen to it, and the way to do that is to do what you think that you need to do to record, and then go back and listen to that file. And the way to do that is to hit list, and if you're on 1345, if you record 1345, then listen to 1345 and verify that it's there. The line in 2 is what we use, but I could not find that wire that goes from the back of your board to line in 2. The only wire that I could find goes from a small hole into another small hole, and I put the wire that I could find into the I believe it was audio out or line out in the bottom of the mixer, and went it into line 2, but I could not get proper levels yesterday, and I don't know what to tell you.
Okay. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable going back and trying to figure out your machine, and there's just no way to know. Should I see any kind of activity anywhere on your screen that the microphones are working? Should I see any kind of lines or anything?
Yes. In other words, when you in order to be able to verify that you're getting recording, you should be able to see the LED bar, the graph, bumping up into the one red level.
Now the one red, where will I see that on your device?
All right. Okay. Here, I've got an idea. Yeah, on the one red, you'd see that on my recorder. Here's an idea, Clint, that would be a workaround that would not use your mixer, but would get the program done if you're willing to do it. And that would be to take the XLR, to take the microphone. If y'all were to use one microphone and put it between the two of you, have you and Jeff talking to one microphone, take the output of that one microphone, the XLR connector, and put it into the recorder in the XLR input. I didn't think about this yesterday. You could work around and do that. It wouldn't be like you want to as far as video is concerned, but it would be good audio, and I could help you long distance set that up so that it would work. But you'd have to do it step by step and work with me, and we could get it done that way if you want to do that.
Okay. So all I'm going to do is plug one mic into the back of your. There's 2 mic holes, right?
There's two. Yes, sir. Those are two XLR connectors. You're going to put it into the one that says mono, or the left-hand side.
Why can't we just do both?
Because you can't. I don't know, but I've never done that, and I don't want to try to.
Okay. Well, there's two plugs back here. That's not for two. That's not for two mics.
You have permission to do that, but I think what that does is record stereo as opposed to recording two channels. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah, it makes total sense. Okay. So which one am I going to plug it into?
All right.
The
So
mono. You want to plug into mono.
Wait.
Okay.
First of all, do you agree you want to try this?
I'll agree to do it if I can't see the red light you're talking about.
All right. Okay. Well, you want to call me back after you see the red lights, or no?
I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to record. If I record a small segment, you can't just eliminate that, right? You're trying to get them in order, right?
Well, no, I can do whatever you want me to do, as far as if you just tell me how it's going to be, or I can listen to it and figure out what you want me to do. But the best thing to do is to do a 12, a 9, and 3/7.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
well, let me see if when I hit the record, I didn't remember seeing any light. Okay.
Any white? What do you mean white?
Any light, red light.
Okay, well, you got to see a red light to know that you've got the proper level. And the red light is one LED. There'll be green, 4 or 5 green lights, and then the top one is red, and that means you've got the level just right.
Okay.
But the graph is like 4 or 5 green lights, and then 4 or 5 red lights. But the way the
bottom right
level is,
I'm recording,
red light.
but he's not. I can't tell on his device. Okay. All right. Okay. I just don't remember a red light on this. Okay. All right. Well, then let me see what we got going. We'll try another 9 minutes.
All right. Let me ask you a question. Do you have? Do you know that you're recording into your SD card? You just go ahead and forget my recorder. If you know you've got audio, go ahead and do your interview, and I'll use your audio.
Well, I mean, we're showing everything that you're saying. That both mics are picking them up, both cameras are picking them up, and as a matter of fact, I'm noticing that one mic is not picking up. I can see it right now, and I don't know why it's not on. Okay.
Do you have an audio? Do you have a thing that's capturing the audio?
The camera is.
Well, then I'll use the camera. We'll use the audio out of the camera for the radio. I don't care. It doesn't have to be in my recorder.
Okay. Well,
would that make it easier on you?
Yes, sir, but I'm also wondering why my second mic is not working. Okay. I'm just noticing that. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we'll try to figure it out. Okay, and we'll let you know.
All right, Clint.
Thank you. I'm sorry to bother you.
Call me back if you need me.
Yes, sir.
Sorry
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I am so sorry because normally he's here, and I told him I could do the machine if it was all hooked up right. So, okay, real quick, let's follow your mic. Where's it going?
Okay.
Okay. No. Can you pull that cord up over there? And let's just see.
What's going underneath something?
Okay.
There is a 3-pronged branch down
Okay.
there,
Why is it? I wonder if it's.
and it's going into this white thing here that's not plugged in.
No, it's not. It's not going into that. It's.
Oh, okay.
It's
That-
going.
What-
Why did this guy do this way? Okay. All right. Hold on.
That's where it's going, is right there where you are.
Yeah. Okay, which is going in the back here. Yeah. Okay, now why is this mic not working? Okay, so it's going to the back here. It's going where it's supposed to.
this thing.
Yeah,
filing all
don't
together.
worry about it. It's just you leave it there. That's fine.
Okay.
It's see, we're going into this mic right here, and for some reason it's just not working. It's in the right spot. Why is that not working? Okay. Do me a test real quick.
Test. 1, 2, 3.
See, look at it's showing. I'll tell you what, that's what we might ought to do too, is just go back to his idea of one mic.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay? Okay, let's move closer together again. All right, these are good mics, so they'll be good. I'm sorry about this. This is not.
No, that's okay.
Not the lack of professionalism.
Well, no. Listen, if you said, Jeff, why don't you try to run this? I'd say let's go
Okay.
eat breakfast somewhere.
All right. Well, see, the question is am I going to be high enough? Okay. Let me just do this. We'll just go with it, okay?
Okay.
All right, you got it? You feel good?
Yep.
Okay. We've got a 9-minute segment, okay?
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I'm here today with Jeff Kilgore. He's an amazing man of God, and he loves helping us taxpayers. And, Jeff, we were talking about the national situation and your concern with accounting background and business background and where our country is going. And you almost feel like you said, we've really gone too far. Are we too far?
Well, that's my fear, and it's a well-founded fear. I'm like 95% sure that where we are is the position that the Biden administration and I got to tell you, Barack Obama before that said we fundamentally are going to change this country, and I think that they have, and that at this point it's irreversible.
Right, I understand, and I totally agree. And I'm hoping and praying that we can have, some kind of radical change. And of course, I understand, from a biblical standpoint, things are going the way the Word of God says. And when I look at that situation of what even Matthew 24 talks about, talking about a world system that's controlled by one person, basically, that people worship, that type of thing. And we see that happening when we lost our freedom, even with COVID. And that was a prime example of countries, and even Canada is still suffering from that, because they have Trudeau's, the son of Castro, is running that country. And that country seems to like him and want to reelect him. But the truckers were a prime example of what would happen to us individually if in America.
You bet.
They can just control the money. They can say, well, look, if you're going to go park at the Capitol and you're going to protest what we're doing here, then we'll shut your checking account down. We won't the bank will not allow you to get your own money out of the bank. And it's just amazing how our systems in so-called Western free countries immediately did these dictatorial type actions. And again, I'm very concerned about, to your point, a president could say, executive order, I'm going to do this. And then we've allowed that. The other branches of government have allowed that to happen. What can we do to stop that, Jeff?
Well, again, in the near term, I don't think there's anything that can be done. I think it's going to take maybe a decade or longer, and people making the right decisions. And fundamentally, I think that starts with, are you familiar with the movement for an Article 5 convention under the Constitution, where the states can call a national convention and reclaim, under the 10th Amendment, the powers and the authority of the individual states in the federal republic, as opposed to having the all-powerful federal government and the Joe Bidens and the Barack Obamas of the world usurping the powers and eliminating our freedoms, as they did, as you point out, with COVID.
Absolutely. And of course, that's a good thing, but the challenge that I always have when we talk about a new writing of a constitution or whatever, not writing a constitution, but coming together like that, it just seems like liberals always take it over. How do we keep that from happening?
Well, and the good news is that, and excuse me, I believe that this country is a 60-40 or 62-38 conservative country.
Yeah.
And
they say right center, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And as a result, Republicans or conservatives control, I think, 34 or 36 state legislatures. When the Convention of States would be called, nothing can be passed without the two-thirds, what is typically required for a constitutional amendment. In other words, there won't be a rewrite. We won't be starting over,
right.
So that fear can be eliminated. The only thing that can be proposed will be amendments, and if somebody proposes, say, well, I'm tired of talking about amendments, let's just write a new constitution, you'd have to have two-thirds of the delegates there, and a significant majority from conservative states to vote to approve to do that. And so I don't think there's any chance of that. But then again, I wouldn't have believed that this country would be where it is today either. So your point is well made that historically we've not had conservatives and Christians willing to stand up and with the courage to stand against the prevailing winds of the socialism and the Democrats. And I'm just in hopes that we have a resurgence of faith and people that want to restore this country to, I think, the morals and the fiber that we had 30 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, tell me this. How did your conservative worldview develop? I can't really say that it developed. It was that way as far back as I can remember. I was an Eisenhower favorite. I suppose my father was career Navy, and so I grew up in a conservative household, and so all I've ever known was self-reliance, freedom, America, loyalty, and just faith in God and His country. And so I didn't have to evolve from something. Exactly. Well, thank you to your family for serving, because when a parent serves, the family serves, and everybody's impacted by that process. And so thank you for serving. And well, so again, those conservative values, sometimes in my life, obviously grew up in a Christian home, had the conservative values, but then went astray for 6 or 7, 8 years and teen years and early college. But then I started realizing that, especially when you start paying taxes, when you really understand when you pay taxes and what comes out of your paycheck, you ought to, all of a sudden you go, yes, Kamala Harris, I am a conservative because I do want to conserve my own money. Yeah. And I don't want you taking it and putting it toward green things you want and liberal causes and telling us that boys aren't girls and girls aren't boys, right? I mean, they want to mix all that up. That message that they're putting out there that a girl can be a boy, we all know that's just a bald-faced lie. It's destructive, and I don't care what anybody says, it's child abuse for doing that to anyone under 18 at least. It's terrible any age, but especially anybody under 18. That a parent would be foolish enough and mean enough and unloving enough to allow that to happen to it. The mutilation of their child to happen just to me goes beyond the pale. I just cannot believe people would do that. And of course, like you said, just a few years ago, we had Obama telling us he's going to fundamentally change things, which he put people in courts that we've seen these fundamental changes. The courts rule against so-called conservative family values. The next thing you know, we got what we got. And we sit here and we go, how can it get any worse? We approve gay marriage, which is not marriage. Marriage is like the Word of God says, between a male and a female, period. And he created man and woman, period. And that's the way it is. But the world, Satan, his minions, if you will, want to fight that process. So what do we do to get our country back in the right direction?
It's a trite and very simplistic view, but we have to elect the right people.
That's right.
We have to operate under our Constitution. It is fundamentally the best document, I think, in the history of the world. And if we adhere to that, and the people, the backbone of this country stands up and becomes engaged, then I think that we can win some elections and we can turn the tide, but It's going to take a while.
Absolutely. And it's a key thing is to pray like crazy, that our country would turn back around. And we're going to take another quick break. This is Clint Day from St. Simons Island, Georgia. We'll be right back. Good job. I just hope this thing's recording. I know my stuff is recording. You heard him say he could get a SIMS card and put it on there.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yes, he can just take yours and work with that.
I hope so, but my challenge is you and I did not get the first 12 minutes. So what we may do is do another 12 minutes at the end.
Sure.
We'll add a 12-minute segment, okay? And then we'll pretend we're starting over again, okay? If that's okay with you, all right?
And that's fine with me. Do you think maybe your mic picked me up, even though this mic wasn't working?
It's possible. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, let's go. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to Speak Truth and Love with Clint Day from St. Simons Island, Georgia. I'm here today with Jeff Kilgore, who knows a lot about local government, state government, and federal government, and obviously from an accounting background. Tell us more about your background and kind of how you came to be the conservative businessman that you are.
Gee, it's going to betray a secret that not many people know, that I didn't really have a plan. When I went to college and majored in accounting, my goal and objective was to then become a CPA and go to work in law school and become a lawyer and CPA. And once I got in, you have to work for 2 years in practice in order to qualify to be a certified public accountant. And so during those 2 years, I was making more money clearly than I'd ever made in my life. And the thought of going back to being a pauper and going to law school and scrimping by, and literally I would donate and sell blood when I was in undergraduate school for money. So I choked on the law school part and stayed in the certified public accountant business. And then I was on like a 5-year plan. I would work and reevaluate every 5 years. My first 5-year tenure, I was growing, I was being promoted, I was making more and more money. And so clearly I decided to stay. And then I got into the second 5 years, and I got to where I was in management in the CPA firm, and I realized that they just didn't do things the way I wanted to do them.
Yes.
And so I was growing and developing a practice area. I was not yet a partner, and so I was billing as much as all but 3 of the partners in the firm, and they were collecting the big checks, and I was making great money. But so the second 5-year threshold, I decided, I'm just going to do this on my own, and I can bill and collect instead of giving them all the money. In 1986, I went on my own and formed my own firm. And what I learned very quickly is without the support of the big firm and the marketing that goes on there, marketing and promoting and advertising and developing new clients is a difficult thing to do, especially when you're having to execute and do all the work as well. And so I evolved into doing litigation support, which is what I was doing at the firm, doing small business consulting, doing some investment banking. And so I became very much a generalist, working in wherever I could find a fee, and managed to survive through all the other years on that basis, and I kind of got into direct line management through the consulting company. Decided that they made the mistake of thinking I could really help them, and they hired me to bail this company out of financial difficulties, and we did. And it was a steel framing construction business. We were doing extremely well. And then George W. Bush in 2002 or 4, I can't remember which, I guess it was 2004, was trying to be reelected. He decided that he needed the steel industry in order to get reelected, so he imposed tariffs on all imported steel. And suddenly I couldn't price the packages that I was trying to sell to builders because of the volatility of steel price. So that's when I decided to come back home.
Yes, sir. And where were you at the time?
I was in Dallas, Texas.
Very good. Well, I tell you, it's amazing the impact of government on us. And you look at all what's going on right now. You mentioned the bank failure on Silicon Valley. And then you look at their board members, how woke they are. Only one member of the board had any banking experience. And Barney Frank, who rewrote our banking laws,
Yes.
is the one that was on that board. They paid him $2.4 million, I've heard, while he served on that board. And the very guy that wrote the laws of the book was on the bank board, okay? And so you're telling me that Democrat, that liberal Democrat, caught up in the wrong kind of lifestyle, was on that board with other people that were just, all they do is stroke checks to liberal Democrat causes.
Right.
Every one of them. And then, like you say, the bank president sells $3.5 million dollars worth of shares right before the bank collapses. And he'll probably never go to jail, even though he had insider trading information. And it's just terrible what they allow, this two-tiered system of justice that they allow to happen. The campaign manager of Trump goes to jail for contempt of court and for lobbying overseas without, quote, a license. And then Hunter Biden does the same thing, and he doesn't even nobody even cares about it, at least on the press side. And we just look at where our country is. You just got to wonder how does the press understand what will happen to them if this country becomes a communist country? All the leaders will be taken out, and they'll be put in jail, put on the concentration farms to re-educate, or they will literally be killed. I mean, you just look around the world where countries have been taken over by dictators like that. Usually the elite people, unless they supported this dictator, they get wiped out. And so I don't understand how our so-called free press doesn't understand dictatorships, communism are not good for their business.
I think it's unfortunately just so prevalent in the media that the people participating on the elite media, what I call elite media, are doing it and they're living day to day.
That's right. And we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back. This is Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia, with Speak the Truth in Love. We'll be right back. Very good. Okay, then we'll come back into it, okay?
You bet.
All right, you're doing great, man. You got so much knowledge. I hope this is recording because, man, it's amazing. I mean, you're taking this conversation in a totally different direction than I thought it was going to be. I thought we were going to stay local, right? Well, we're going to come back to local,
and we can do that. Yeah, sure.
But the thing is, I want to reemphasize that I'll bring us in. I'll bring us in. We'll do the interview. Okay.
Yeah, I think very few people out there are.
Okay, 7 minutes. We'll do it on radio.
Okay.
2 7-minute segments. Okay.
You bet.
Welcome back to Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I'm here today with Jeff Kilgore, who's really an expert on, from an accounting standpoint, a business standpoint, on a lot of these things that are going on in our government. He's been a fighter for us at the local level too, state level, national level, on fighting for taxpayers. And one of the things we were just talking about is just the misunderstanding of a lot of these so-called elite liberals, the media liberals, if you will. They don't understand they'll be one of the first people a dictator or communist government will take out, or they'll be totally controlled and told what to say. And so Why do people just don't see that?
I think we 40 years or 35 years ago made the mistake of allowing. This is not something that just happened in the last 2 or 3 years. The communists and specifically, I think the Chinese have been plotting and implementing their plan for 40 or 50 years. Khrushchev famously pounded his shoe and said, "We will take you from the inside. We will never have to go to war. We will defeat you internally." And I think that's the plan, and I think they're close to succeeding. I think the COVID was clearly part of the plot, the degradation of our freedoms and the deprivation of freedoms, and all of this banking and the fundamentally the takeover of the education system, where we've for years been turning out 50%, then 60%, and now as much as 70% of the young people that graduate from our high schools and colleges are socialists. They believe that capitalism is the problem and that socialism is where we need to be. And so I think ignoring what was going on in the education system is the fundamental cause.
Absolutely. And even the Catholic Church understood that. You give me a child before they're 5, we can raise them to be good Catholics. And yet the world knows that too. And you're totally right. The educational system is always the underpinning of everything that we do, especially the so-called public school system. And now I'm becoming a strong advocate of school choice.
Right.
And yet there's so many educators, it's ingrained. You go up at the Capitol. As a matter of fact, I was there recently, and you go up there and you visit the Senate chambers and the House chambers, and overwhelmingly there are a lot of both sides, Republican, Democrat. There are a lot of educators and people that believe in the public school system, which I grew up in. I believed in the public school system. 3 of my 4 children went to private schools, so because I wanted to prepare them to, for college and that type of thing. One of my children did very well there, and that's where she needed to be with her talents and the opportunities that public school had with music and that type of thing. So, but when you look at the situation, we don't know sometimes what we're putting our children into. And I had, 3 of my 4 children are pretty conservative, and I have one daughter that's more liberal, but she also went to NYU and to SCAD. And her worldview got shaped there in a lot of ways.
You bet.
Now, in my case, I went to Florida State. I was a wild man. I was a partier. I was out of control. But God got a hold of me on March 7th, 1981, and totally radically changed my life, and I totally flipped on what that worldview is. And I know that's a key thing, is that Christ comes into someone's life, changes their life, and their worldview will change. And again, there's nothing wrong with being liberal. I mean, if you can have a liberal view to want to help people and that type of thing, but
Sure.
If you want to destroy a nation, that doesn't work. Or if you want to say, again, that God didn't make male and female and try to add on to marriage and all that, then I've got a real problem with that. But again, I think fundamentally we all want to help people.
Yes.
But yet that's individuals helping people rather than relying on the government. And see, and a lot of times the church has not taken up their call, and us as individual Christians have not taken up the call to help with different things. Now, we can't help everything. We can help where our part is. But even like the homeless situation, you see in California, they're talking about building like 1,200 houses for tiny houses for military veterans. And you look at it, they're going to spend $30 million for this. In L.A., they spend like $800,000 per homeless person. And I mean, if you can't take care of someone spending $800,000, I mean, it's just crazy what they've done and what we allow them to do. So what can we do to fight that, Jeff?
Well, again, my belief is we need to take back the power from the federal government. And
Jimmy Carter made the National
Department of Education.
Right,
Yep.
the National Department of Education.
And that needs to be obliterated and defunded and hopefully put away and never exist again. And that combined with, and I don't know exactly how to do this, but clearly the churches were reticent to step out into the political realm because of the threat of the federal government being more and more agnostic or secular, take away the tax exempt status for the churches. And so there is a pretty significant club that the federal government holds over churches and to keep them, well, primarily white churches, I guess, but to keep it in line. As you know, the Democrats took God out of their platform. The federal government for years has been trying to take God out of our country and out of our people. And so the very simplistic answer to your question is the restoration of faith and restoration of a quality education system, concurrent with the states taking back power from the federal government so that we are closer to our elected officials and can do a better job of electing the right people.
Absolutely, that's very good. And one thing I'll say before we take another quick break is just the fact that the Supreme Court recently ruled on a lot of those religious liberty issues that more and more state governments and individuals in the communities need to know. Allowing the Ten Commandments to come back in a courthouse, allowing the Ten Commandments to have Christmas decorations up in your town. There's a lot of things that have been reinstituted, if you will, since the new court that Trump helped make has ruled in that direction. It's very exciting, and people don't really understand what that new Supreme Court said. Like George Moore over there in Alabama, who was forced to resign because he didn't refuse to move the Ten Commandments, which were in the Supreme Court of the United States, but he wasn't allowed to keep them in his in the courthouse. And so now he's going to be able to put that back. The courts have said that that's okay. I'm just encouraged by that. So we're going to take another quick break. This is Clint Day from St. Simons Island, Georgia. We'll be right back. Okay, we got one more. Okay. Anything you want to wrap up with? Would you allow people to call you?
Sure.
Or email you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're going to start with. And then I want to talk about, we only have 7 minutes, so it'll be quick. What do you want to make sure we talk about?
Email, yes, not calling.
Exactly, that's what I would say.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, email, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
Indeed.
That's what I want to make sure. Okay, and then think about what is the main issue that people in a local community need to be aware of, that they need to be fighting against or supporting. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Tax issue, whatever. Okay? You all right? Ready?
Yes.
Welcome back to Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day from St. Simons Island, Georgia. I'm here today with Jeff Kilgore, who has amazing ideas. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, how would they email you?
Email would be my name, first two initials, J.A., and then my last name, Kilgore, Kilgore. So JAKILGORE at bellsouth.net. Say
it again, please.
JAKILGORE at bellsouth.net.
All right. So if in most counties, obviously, they all have similar type issues. Most of them are, well, in our area of the country, they're growing. There's good revenue. I know in the Rust Belt they got their own set of problems, but they force people out of their communities because of unions and other things. But tell me, what would be a major issue that you think people need to be aware of at a county government level, maybe a local city government, so that they can be aware, that they can be involved with it, either to stop it or to change it, make it better? Go both directions.
The most important thing is people need to be comfortable telling their local elected officials what they want, and telling the local elected officials what their expectation is. Oftentimes people are intimidated because they think county commissioner, that's a powerful person and they're really important. They're not. They're public
they're
service.
Important. We want to respect them.
Well, of course they're important, but they're not any more important than that taxpaying citizen.
That's right. That taxpayer hired them.
Indeed, and they are public servants. That's by true. Definition. They chose that role when they put their name on a ballot, and so they need to be reminded of that from time to time, and that's up to the people to assert their authority and to recognize that it is the people's business. And so often you hear the refrain from citizens that, well, they're going to do what they want to do, and there's nothing I can do about that. And we need to defeat that notion totally, and for folks to take charge of their own life and the things that are going on in government, where the elected officials are making decisions that affect their life.
Absolutely. Why do you think these elected officials who are, quote, public servants, why are they so reluctant to be held accountable?
I think it's evolved over time, just like the federal government and the elected officials have developed into career politicians. And that filters down to the local level, and the perception that the elected people are some kind of elevated level, and they are too busy, and that they don't have time for the people, and so the system is about 180 degrees out of phase with the politicians being in charge, and this is supposed to be their deriving their power from the authority that the public vests in them as an elected official. They derive their power from the people, not the reverse.
Absolutely. What is one of the biggest areas that you've been able to help stop because of your activism?
The biggest thing is, I think, a perception within the local government and local county staff that there really are people out there that are paying attention. And so they can't just willy-nilly do whatever they wish, although they're still trying that more often than I would like. But there's a growing body of people that are paying attention, and I think that we may, in the next 4 to 6 months, have a formation of a citizens action group on St. Simon's Island.
Yes, that's great. So tell us more about that.
Well, there's a lot of people talking about it, and at this point...
And it would be a more conservative group, because you got plenty of liberal groups that are very well organized.
And indeed, it's predominantly more conservative, but we're, from a political standpoint, local issues aren't governed so much by liberal and conservative as they are by just wanting to do the right thing and wanting good quality local government. So I have found that I have commonality with a lot of liberals in terms of local issues. We're not talking about national issues like abortion or the federal budget. We're talking about their tax dollars. They value their tax just like you and I do.
Yes.
And so I think that the group should, in my opinion, welcome people of all kinds of different political philosophies, because we're going to derive our power from the people having a centralized or enough power to influence the local elected people.
Right. Now, what would be a common theme? We got about another minute. What would be a common theme? Because for me, sitting down with a more liberal person's worldview, sometimes I have trouble understanding where commonality means. And I know hopefully lower taxes, but a lot of times they want to pay more taxes so they can do more social services. So help me understand, where would be a common theme?
Well, a common theme would be, for example, in Glenn County government, we typically will enter into contracts or put out invitations for bid to contractors for various services and construction projects. In Glenn County, we don't do an adequate job of getting competitive bidding and competitive quotes for work. Oftentimes, unfortunately, our elected officials and the county staff will assign contracts to favored people or to their cronies or former county employees.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm glad you're fighting against that. Well, listen, we got to wrap it up. Jeff Kilgore, it's been amazing to be with you. I hope people will reach out to you if they want to make a difference on the county, state, and national level. You're an amazing man of God, amazing man of truth. You're a truth teller, and truth sets us free, as we say, and as the Word of God says. And I want to say good day to you, friends. I want to thank you for joining us today for Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day on WCGA 1100 AM from St. Simons Island, Georgia. Remember, every day is a God day.
You bet.
Thank you, sir.
You bet. You want to, in an abundance of caution, do the 7, or you think this picked up both of us?
I think it'd be good to do it. So, and we'll try to duplicate somewhat of that first segment. So let's do that. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Or if I don't know the demographic of the listener group. If you want to focus more on local stuff, because we haven't really done that much local stuff. So it's just up to you.
Okay, very good.
What do you think
We'll do
works?
that based on what you said. Okay. Okay. I'll start us over. Okay. We'll do another segment, 12-minute segment. All right. Man, I tell you, I hope this is working. So, I don't know how to read it on this thing.
Yeah.
And I don't see a light.
I don't either from here. So.
Well, we'll record now. Okay, we're going to do 12 minutes, okay?
Okay.
Welcome back to Speak the Truth in Love with Clint Day from St. Simons Island, Georgia on WCGA 1100 AM, where we do speak the truth in love based on Ephesians 4:15. In today's woke PC culture, there are many forces that want to stop free speech, especially for people of faith. Good men and women must be willing to stand up for their faith and be salt and light to preserve our freedom. True freedom comes from faith in Jesus Christ. In John's word, John 8:32, God's word, he says the truth will set you free. Today I welcome your friends, and I'd like to welcome my good friend, Jeff Kilgore.
Great, Clint. It's good to be here with you.
It's so good, buddy. And one of the things about Jeff, he's a real patriot. He works for the taxpayers. He does everything he can to fight for us on the local level, the state level, the national level. And he has a great business background to back that up, and, of course, a military family background. He grew up in a Navy family. So it's just really amazing to have you here, Jeff. And one of the things we were talking about is the power of local government. And we remember Tip O'Neill used to say all politics is local.
Yep.
And a lot of times we feel like these elected officials are in their ivory tower and they're untouchable, they're unapproachable, but yet they're our neighbors. And we need to be willing. We need to show them respect. We need to show them we respectfully maybe disagree with them or agree with them. And we show that respect, but we've got to show up. Why is there such reluctance for people to show up?
Well, I think that people have become so preoccupied with their day-to-day life and just making it in what has become a very difficult world. And so particularly people that have a family and children, indisputably the focus should be on the children and raising good quality citizens and patriots. And so I think that when people evaluate their time, they just decide they don't have enough time for politics. It's distasteful to a lot of people. You have to be engaged and have an interest in it in order to be effective in politics. And so rather than interrupt their daily schedule, it's just easier for people to rely on the fact, well, there's a good people that we've elected, and I'll just let them handle it, and so they ignore it.
Absolutely. Now, again, tell us about the basic fundamentals. How often do most counties meet?
Glenn County Board of Commissioners meets the first and third Thursday. The Island Planning Commission meets the third Tuesday. The Finance Committee meets also on the third Tuesday for the Glenn County government. And then, of course, you've got the City of Brunswick that meets the first and third Wednesdays. And so the city government has, in its own right, a budget on the order, I don't know, I haven't looked at it in the last year or two, but probably something on the $18 or $20 million a year. And the county operating fund budget is about $85 million a year. So in terms of perspective, the people need to pay attention to the city as well as the county government.
Right. Well, why is that important on a local level to pay attention to what your county government's doing?
Well, as the saying goes, it's your money, and the only way that the county can function is by confiscating and taking your money. And in Glenn County, our local government has accumulated a aggregate surplus of all 26 funds that comprise the financial operations of Glenn County government. There's about $130 million surplus, and that's excess collections, and it's fundamentally why I opposed, and I was grateful that you opposed the SPLOST effort, because in my opinion, our local government has more than adequate funds to provide the services and the infrastructure and the protection that we all expect. And so I think that it's incumbent on the citizens to get involved to ensure the efficiency of the local government so they don't tax us even more.
Absolutely. And when the fact of the matter is, we talked about that earlier, is just you got a mother with 3 kids making $40,000 a year. She's 1% is about $400 that she's paying additional for so-called splosh. When we have this excess in our government, and I'm all for fiscal responsibility, proper use of money, a lot of money for a rainy day, but that sounds like we have about over a year reserves to take care of if all revenue stopped.
Yeah, it depends on what the burn rate is. I don't know if that's an accounting term. Many people know that burn is what it's going to cost you per month to stay in operation. And at a point in time, I think the county burn rate was around $6 or $7 million a month. And so if you've got, in Glenn County, we have a rainy day fund of $30 million that they say is untouchable. So you've got about 5 to 6 months that the county could operate with no revenue at all.
Right.
And I think that's more than adequate. And in my opinion, it's overkill, actually. I think that 3 or 4 months is more than adequate rather than 6.
Well, as an accountant, you would probably recommend that for a family, right?
Well, for a family, indeed.
Yes.
But not a local county government, because you have state and federal bailouts and emergency access to funds that you and I wouldn't have.
Absolutely.
And so it's different for
and
the
they
government.
use printed money.
Yes.
Which what happens when we print money? What does that cost?
Well, and that's one of the arguments that we had against SPLOST. It causes inflation, and so your dollar's worth less. And so that mother that you were talking about, that's whether single mother or married with children, $40,000 a year is being eroded. It's not worth today what it was last month. And gasoline's going up, food's going up, and our county government wanted to impose an additional tax on people. I think that it was unconscionable. I think people are going to, because of the tightening and the constraints on their individual budget, there are people going to lose their homes because they can't afford the inflation, the gas, the food, and then on top of that, the $400 a year of additional taxation. This is just going to be a breaking point for some people.
Well, when they say that Biden's getting our inflation under control, and they're noting the fact that it's gone from where it was in the summer to, let's say, roughly 6% now. Okay, that 6% does not include fuel and food. Is that correct?
Correct, but that's with respect. The Biden notion that he's getting under control is a lie. So we can get back to that when.
But I mean, I'm saying it was higher in the summer, so it's come down to 6%.
Yeah,
so that's a lie. You're totally true. When his lips are moving, he's lying. We got it. Lying Biden. We know more so than any president we've ever seen. Of course, he doesn't really have a full faculties, and that's sad because he's running is the leader of the free world, if you will. Now let's go back to this reality though. So CPI does not even include food and fuel and gasoline, and so folks, if it included that, I mean it's probably 12 or 13%.
Right.
Because again, those things have gone up so much, and even though they say fuel prices have come down, they're still about $1 more per gallon, so about 40% more than they were under Trump.
No question about it. And the recent demise of the Silicon Valley Bank and what would appear to be a movement toward a banking crisis in this country is going to make your earnings worth even less yet. And so it's soon going to be, I fear, something on the order of a socialist or communist state with the very upper tier of the elites, and then everybody else. There's not going to be a middle class, and everybody else is going to be in serfdom.
That's right. That's so true, and that's where we're heading if we're not careful. We've seen that in Venezuela. We saw it in Cuba. We saw it in Russia. Everywhere we look, that's what those. And it only took 3% of the people to take over Russia and totally change the system because the government was so bad. And then we could find ourselves in the same situation here. The government gets so bad, we look for any way out. We look for so-called safety and security. Right. And that's real interesting. Going back to the biblical quotes, that's one of the things the Bible says. People are screaming prophetically, we want safety and security. We want safety and security. And you hear politicians say that all the time.
Right.
For your safety and security, we're going to do this. For your safety and security, we're going to drain our gas reserves out of those pipelines where we have them. We're going to bring them. We're going to get that out so we can, quote, give you more safety and security. In the meantime, our country's not prepared for a real bad rainy day because now we're going to have to fill that back up with more expensive fuel.
And it exposes us to a much weaker state for a kinetic war.
Absolutely.
And ultimate complete annihilation and takeover.
Absolutely. And I tell you again, I don't, we go back to what the Bible says and we study what it says. We know a lot of things are happening. We're in a period of time where we're seeing those birth pains getting stronger and stronger. Now we only have about another minute and a half. Give me a really solid thing that someone individually can look at, a county budget, any county, but especially our county, that they really need to look at to help make a difference.
Well, the Glenn County website is very informative, and all of the information you would ever need to know is there, and it's available to any citizen that will develop the interest. And it takes a little bit to familiarize yourself with the website itself, but you can look at the budgets going back for 15, 20 years. You can look at the actual audited financial statements, which is the actual results of operations for the previous 15 or 20 years. And you can look at things like, for example, the defined benefit pension plan, where 99 out of the Fortune 100 have terminated defined benefit plans because they're more expensive. In Glenn County, we still have a defined benefit plan that costs the taxpayers anywhere from $5 to $7 million a year. That should be eliminated. And those are the kinds of things that the public can discover if they do a little bit of research.
Is that something you're actively pursuing now?
I have and did for the last 8 years, and unfortunately I haven't gotten the proper attention of the commissioners yet to do what's necessary. An example is last June 30th, in 2021, the unfunded liability was only $700,000. In June 30th of 22, the unfunded liability is now $24 million. So that's $24 million
exactly.
Taxpayer dollars.
Growing exponentially. So that's one thing we can do. We're going to take a quick break. This is Clint Day from St. Simon's Island, Georgia. Speak the truth in love. We'll be right back. I just hope it recorded.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Awesome
job, man.
Well,
we got sidetracked again, but it's all right.
But that's okay. I mean, and I can do it as much as you want or as little as you want.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt my feelings.
Well, we may have to regather. I don't know. I know I got it on my other stuff. As a matter of fact, I got to turn it off. So
hopefully, the listenership will expand and folks will be interested. Some people are just going to say, that's